Hey everyone, welcome to part 8 of the ACP-520 journey. My test is in a couple of weeks and I've been moving, and because of the move, I haven't had a chance to catch up, and now that I only have like less than 2 weeks to finish studying, figured I got to get out this last advanced features module, module number 4. So, if you're new, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you've been following along, again, this is part 8, and we're going to be talking about configuring your custom email addresses or DMARC. And this section of the exam is worth 15 to 20%. And it is there's a lot of links in here. And so we're going to, in typical fashion, we're just going to try to cover 4.1. And obviously need to get through all of them by the 10th of February. And so we'll see. Also, King Bob may or may not join us. And we'll see if he joins or not. But if he does, then more power to us. But if not, then we'll just keep on going and see how this goes. All right. So let me share my screen, and we are going to jump into the study material. Again, if you haven't subscribed, now's the time to hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, let's jump into advanced features. And my computer doesn't want to share a screen, so let's try the window. Hopefully this comes out okay. Okay, here we go. So advanced features, org admins must be familiar with the advanced features and how they're used in their configuration. So we are going to be focusing on section 4.1, the configure custom email addresses. I only got about an hour here to do this, so hopefully that's enough time. And again, if you're new, let me just walk you through what I do here. I am studying for the ACP 520, and all I do is just open up all the links here, read through them, talk about them. Usually I have King Bob on here. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to join us today. My phone died overnight, and so this morning I was doing a mad scramble to try to get my phone to work. Don't get Pixels, Android FTL for the loss. I had to switch over to my iPhone. So thankfully that's all squared away, and I'm now on a far superior phone, and we'll be able to make some progress here. So let's jump into what are the benefits of DMARC. Now, I was talking to King Bob earlier in the week because the DMARC stuff is a little scary. I don't really have a whole lot of information or knowledge of DMARC, and so I think I'm going to stumble through this section. I'm less worried about the rest. I'm less worried about release tracks. I'm less worried about this and Atlassian Access. But this little section here, this is the part that worries me the most. Other than the group stuff that we covered in the past, because the group stuff is straightforward, but it's just confusing because there's a lot happening, right? But yeah, DMARC is probably the most technically challenging part that I feel is going to trip me up on the exam. So what are the benefits of DMARC? So setting up a DMARC for your organization to keep emails that we send secure and improve the rate of delivery for those emails. So keep product email secure. When an action triggers a Jira email, I'm assuming this is something like the transitions, anybody that's watching an issue, things of that nature. DMARC is going to help to avoid phishing and domain spoofing by using two existing email authentication mechanisms: the Sender Policy Framework (SPF) and the Domain Keys Identified Mail (DKIM). A phishing email could look like it's coming from your organization because it includes content recipients would expect. In the case of domain spoofing, the email may seem credible because the sender email address includes a domain your users or customers would expect. There's a security problem because email contents may ask recipients to enter sensitive information like logging in to your Atlassian ID, but actually not logging into the real Atlassian ID, right? Logging into a spoofed page. Well, that would be a big problem. And so yeah, so that's not a good thing. So or download harmful software which can then take over computers or do really really bad things. So in addition to that, cases of phishing and spoofing can have negative effect on your organization's reputation by impacting your public reception and trust, aka T-Mobile and Target and everybody else that's gotten hacked in the last few years. So improve email delivery rates. So DMARC also improves. So it does two things then, right? So it's going to keep your email secure and it's going to improve your delivery rate. So DMARC improves the likelihood that your users and customers will receive all product emails on Atlassian systems. When the recipient mark is incoming email as spam, email servers are more likely to mark other similar emails, including those coming from Atlassian, as spam. DMARC ensures that recipients' email servers recognize Atlassian's emails as legitimate and trusted. As a result, product notifications are less likely to be considered spam. Okay, so this is good, especially if you're in an organization. For some reason, your IT team isn't talking to your Atlassian team, they might try to lock things up. So that's the first section. So let's go a little bit deeper into this DMARC item. So what are the steps for setting up these custom email addresses? Let's jump into it a little bit more. As an organization admin, which is what we're studying for, you can set up DMARC so that Jira project admins can customize the sender email address of any Jira project's notification, including customer notifications for JSM. This section includes the steps on what you need to take to set up your DMARC. All right, so the first one is add the domain you want to use for sending emails. Add your domain for product notifications. This is different from verifying your domain to manage accounts. Learn how to verify manage accounts here. I hate it. This is one of the things that I absolutely do not like about Atlassian's documentation, that they make you go on this. I like linear documentation, and I hate having to jump between links and links, right? Like these nested links then just means I have another tab. I may already have the tab open, and it just this is one of my least favorite things about Atlassian documentation. And most software documentation, I like it to read like a book. But anyways, let's get off of that little rant. And let's keep going. So we'll come back to this. So learn how to verify your domain. I think we've already done, right? So we've done it in a previous section. So make sure you check out the ones where we talked about verifying your domain. So we use the DNS record to verify your domain. We verify that you have control over your domain, and we grant Atlassian the permission to send emails on behalf of the domain. This is similar to how you can verify your domain for managing accounts. The difference is that we use multiple DNS records to verify your domains for email authentication. So let's click on these though, just to kind of see what's going on. We'll open up this first one, verify your domain to manage accounts. So you're going to come into always this new centralized one here. And we're going to come down to, okay, so yeah, so we definitely covered this section. Hey, Bob, how are you?
Pretty good, Alex. How's it going?
Oh, I'm never moving ever again in my life.
Yeah. I've heard. So there are 3 life-changing events that kind of happen that kind of bring the most stress upon people. The first is generally the kind
Having
of
a
the
kid?
starting. Well, first is starting of a relationship with a loved one,
Okay.
or ending the relationship of a loved one.
Yeah, I can see
Second
that.
one is starting or leaving a job, and then number 3 is moving. So welcome to this.
I told my wife
So
the only way I'm
we are
ever moving. Yeah, I told my wife the only way I'm ever moving again is like a $500,000 salary and like a full relocation package. Otherwise, I'm never ever moving ever again in my life.
Yep.
They got to make it really worth it. So I just started. I'm going through the DMARC stuff.
Okay.
Looking through the documentation. It says that the first thing is you got to verify your domain. I was just clicking through the links to see if it was any different than verifying the domain that we did for the Atlassian Access section. But it's all the same steps. So you still go to the directory of domains and you pick your DNS method.
It is. Do we know what? Have you explained what DMARC is?
Kind of. So I clicked on the first one, which is what are the benefits of DMARC, and it does 2 things. It creates it so that you have secure emails, and then it does it so that your emails are delivered quicker. But what DMARC stands for or what it does, that last thing doesn't cover it.
Yeah. So DMARC stands for. I don't have that up. Okay. Anyway, so basically, it is one of a number of protocols that Atlassian uses, so that if you tell Atlassian my email domain is
superawesomeurl.com.
Right. Any emails, it will use that. You can use any email address for notifications coming from that domain, and then it will handle behind the scenes, or at least the DMARC protocol behind the scenes will say, because we verified this, they're really who they say they are. This isn't phishing.
But who
Go
does it
ahead
tell it
and
to?
allow this.
Who's this like to? Is it saying it to like the company's email servers?
In a way, yes. Because there's a protocol out there, an anti-phishing protocol out there called CORS, CORS, and I forget, that does kind of look at the email headers and say, wait a minute, this looks kind of fishy, but because DMARC is kind of folded in, it will allow it through and not flag it for security. So
Okay.
that's what you're really doing with DMARC.
So this is something I've never actually done. I've never added my email domain. I've verified my domain, but I've never done the email domain as a whole. Is this something that companies should be doing then?
This is something that companies should be doing if they want to make sure that if they don't want to cause any confusion, because by default, Atlassian Cloud is going to use I think, what is it?
Because to the best of my knowledge, I've never set this up. I've done the verification when we go to Atlassian Access, but not once have I set that domain or this email domain portion.
Yeah. It'll so what Atlassian uses by default for email is kind of the site ID, right? kingbob.atlassian.net, right? So you might see something, you might see like a Jira notification from like Jira at kingbob.atlassian.net. That's the default. Right. But through DMARC, you can actually change it so that the notification email will come from something a little more familiar, like Jira at superawesomeurl.com. So that's what we're trying to do with DMARC.
Yeah. Okay. So I definitely seen that section, but I did not have it. I guess, remember last week we were talking, or was it earlier this week we were talking about why get certifications? Well, so you can discover things you didn't know about Jira.
Yep.
So, all right. So adding these domains is really easy. So I don't even know where I'm going to go at this anymore because we are on a new Jira, although I don't know that we're ready for that one just yet. So let me come on over here. I need to switch out my accounts for the norm.
So yeah, first step is going to be verification. You kind of have to verify that you do own that particular email domain.
Then
once you have that, you have let's see.
Go to settings, emails. Here we go. Right. Deliver secure emails from your domain. Improve delivery rates and security. So all you got to do is just add your domain.
Yep.
I wonder if it actually takes it. Oh, it added it. Now, is there anything else that you need to do here, or is it just literally adding it?
It is just adding it after verifying it.
Yeah, because after you do the verification and you put all the DNS information that you need to put in that one location, then you just got to come in here and add it. Okay.
Right. And then once it's been added, and then there is a step for you to activate that email domain.
Okay.
Right. Where
that I just
right there at the edge. And then once that domain's been activated, then you tell you tell Atlassian Cloud essentially what email addresses to use, and you can set them up for your notifications depending upon your product, Jira or Confluence.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's keep on going with this then, because again, step 1 is verify your domain. Step 2 is add your email domain, which we've done. And then we go on to step 2, which is copy and add your DNS records to your email provider. So when you add your domain, we provide you with the list of DNS records that you must add to your domain provider in order for Atlassian to verify domain ownership. And the configure any or to query any additional configuration parameters required for DMARC to function properly. So let's take a look at these and how to add them.
Right.
So these are
So
the DNS records.
yeah, so there are a couple of DNS records, and these are typically again, this is not done in Atlassian Cloud. This is done however you have set up DNS. If you're doing something like AWS and using Route 53, there are specific places where you would do something like set up that DKIM, that record in the middle, the DKIM CNAME record that allows that to happen. And then there are a few other records.
I would assume Azure would have something similar too. No, a lot of teams
Yep.
are on the Microsoft domain area.
Yes,
So this is,
if your DNS is, if you're going through Azure and you're and you have your DNS set up through Azure, you'd be doing the exact same thing. So there are 3 types of records. For the purposes of the exam, it's probably good enough just to know the 3 types. But again, this is done at
outside
in the area where you set up your DNS.
Okay, so the DMARC uses the SPF and DKIM to determine the authenticity. I can never say that word, of an email message or recognize whether the message is coming from your domain. As part of the DMARC setup, we provide DNS records to these authentication details. So over here, when we're adding, right, then there's those DNS records. You're gonna get all this information, and you just give it over to your admin. So this is, you will most likely not be the admin. No. Right, in a bigger company, they're usually not. You as the Atlassian admin are usually not the email or domain admin.
Yeah, this is something where this is system admin territory. You provide them. These are going to be text records, and you provide them these text records, and they just.
It's kind of like setting up Okta and all that, right? You just copy paste links and values.
That's exactly how it happens.
Yeah, give it to the right authority. So you just need to know where they're at. Which is pretty simple, right? Because you just go to setting emails and you're going to go to your email that you've added in the previous step, and they're all, everything's going to be in there. So this looks very simple here. And then, as you mentioned, right, so you just need to be aware of these 3 records here. So be familiar with your SPF, the SPF record, be familiar with the DKIM CNAME record, and then be familiar with the bounce record. And we'll get, I think, I'll come back and touch it once I jump into the course material, but these are the 3 records that you mainly need to know. So once you have that, you're going to confirm. So when you add your DNS records to your email provider, due to the nature of how DNS works, it may take some time. I hate this part because you never know if you did it right or not.
It's either it's either instantaneous or about an hour or so. That DNS is a funny thing.
Yeah. When you add your domain to admin.atlassian.com, we run the DNS record every 24 hours. And trust me, they do run it. And if something does pop up, they will send you every 24-hour email, because I've gotten these in the past where you got to go in and check something up. But yeah, every 24 hours they do the check, so you can't go rogue on people on Atlassian. You can also get your email domain entry and run DNS record to check any time that you get an up-to-date status for each record. If one or more DNS records don't match during the check, we'll send you an email, right? This is the one I'm talking about. You will stop receiving those emails when they match. So activating the domain. So you talked about this a little bit. So we configure systems to send emails on behalf of your domain. We provision this once we confirm all the DNS records match. Provisioning can take up to 72 hours. While we recognize this DNS record DNS record updates to your provider. When provision is complete, we update your email status to verify, or domain status to verify. All right, after we verify your domain, you can specify the email addresses that you want to use for Jira notifications, add email addresses that you want to your project settings. So let's look at this, because this thing had an interesting note. Okay, so we definitely have looked at this already. But Atlassian has an interesting note where at the beginning of one of these articles right here, right, JSM customer notifications, emails are usually pretty trivial until you start folding in JSM. Because JSM kind of sets it's on its own league with respect to how it does emails.
Yeah, it has its own separate email handler from the standard Jira software email handler. So
Right.
um, so yeah, JSM is a special beast.
So for JSM, do you need to do all of this, or can you customize your emails regardless of how you have your Jira software handler set up?
So this is actually separate from the most JSM admins know that one of the ways that you can ingest tickets is through
The email.
is through email, right? And there's a special spot right there in the project to define what email address you're using. This is actually separate
Okay.
from that. This is going to cover anything JSM is going to send to customers or to agents. So you don't have to worry about that per se in setting up JSM.
Correct. But for Jira software, though, I typically tell my teams don't mess around with the Jira settings because it's all configured to work.
Yeah.
JSM, the one where you can have a little bit more creativity, you can definitely set things up a little bit more customized. But I just accept the defaults from Jira software because then you're kind of entering a little bit of dangerous territory.
Well, here's actually the kind of thing. And this is kind of like next level. You're actually so you just said that to accept the defaults and email addresses and things like that. What you're doing here is you're setting the new default email address.
So
That
then that begs the
the
question, though, why would a company want to change it, right? Because you do get like Jira at your thing domain.atlassian.net as the main notification email, right?
Mhm.
But why is there an incentive to change it? Like, is there a benefit?
Because some people get confused. Why is this email address, kingbob@atlassian.net? Why am I being phished? Am I being
Mm.
spoofed?
So it's for the paranoid,
Basically, yeah.
basically. All right, so that makes sense. I, to be honest, though, I don't think I've seen this very much. I think most companies that I've worked with over the last 7 years usually just accept these defaults that I'm aware of. I rarely ran into a scenario where people are confused,
Okay.
but I guess it's there if you want to change it.
It's there
just
if you
make
wanna
sure,
change it.
just make sure you follow all the steps.
Yeah.
All right. And then project admins can select an email address for it. So yeah, so this is basically what we're talking about. So your Jira project admins can select one of these email addresses for the sender email addresses of a notification. The next time the
And
recipient receives, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and Damien brings up a good point. Why the you know,
Damien,
most cloud
yeah,
admins are
Damien
too
has
afraid to mess
exposed
with it,
me.
and Damien counts himself in there. So again, it's one of those Atlassian things. They enjoy trying to be flexible to the point where, and again, not on the exam, but something that you should keep in your back pocket. One of the things that they are looking at is being able to allow um, organization admins to set that URL so that you do get, you know, um, cloud Atlassian cloud at super awesome URL.com.
Right.
So but that's something that's
Just so it looks a little bit
um,
more official. Yeah. I don't know, I just like I'm a big fan of like if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of mentality. Atlassian's defaults work beautifully, right? I never had a problem with it.
they do.
And so, but yeah, I mean, if at least you know you have the options here. Let's take a quick look at how to configure your Jira Cloud to send emails on behalf of your domain. So you're gonna go to your settings. Okay, cool. So let's go there. So I'm going to switch back over to my Jira project over here. You go to a Jira project. Maybe that's not mess with. Do I only have team managed projects? Wow. Okay. Let's see if it's a team managed project, because I'm not convinced that team managed projects would have this. But let's go to notifications, and up here, this is where you're changing your email. So as you can see, it's coming in from the Jira instance, right? Instead of some trusted domain. So you're basically telling me, Bob, that we could have changed this to be Jira at superawesomeurl.com.
Yes. Are you on a different screen because you're not displaying it?
Okay. I've been having, so I have a small problem. small problem.
All problems are small.
I have a problem that my okay, you know what? I gotta fix this better. Let me redo this here. So my Chrome extensions, and I don't know who else can empathize with this problem, but my Chrome has been open for like, I don't know, I want to say since like Christmas. Right? And I have so many tabs open since Christmas that they're all like my to-do list tabs.
Wait,
and I have to get back to them. And most recently, as of like Wednesday of this week, I can't share the entire screen because Chrome won't allow it. And I have to close Chrome out in order to like reset the thing. And I'm too scared to close Chrome out right now. And so I'm suffering through workarounds, which is instead of sharing my entire screen, I got to share like the window.
All right. So Rodney is kind of here. Good morning, Rodney. And he's saying that even Macs need occasional restarts, which makes me wonder, in the process of moving, didn't you have to shut down your computers and transport them, or was
No, it's my laptop.
your laptop
with me the whole time.
So you just let your laptop sleep and during the move.
Yep. I put away all my desktops, but my laptop has been with me at my side the whole time. But I would argue against Mr. Rodney here. This is not a Mac need a restart. This is a Chrome needs to restart. My Mac is fine. I love my Mac. All right. So anyway, so you're gonna come in here, and this is essentially where you would change it. Can you change the left side? Can you put whatever you want, like Jira notifications at superawesomeurl.com?
If you set the email address beforehand in the organizational admin,
So if it
then
actually
yes.
exists. So
Yeah.
so we went back to over here, and we went to settings, and we added
Jira notifications at superawesomeurl.com. Then yes. Then it would get picked up by the products. And
awesome.
your product admins can.
That's easy. So let's keep on going then, because we got we'll keep on going here. Let's go to what are the DNS records required for configuring DMARC. So DMARC uses, okay, so these are the three. We've already covered those. So again, just know which ones you need, or which ones those three are, because that's what you're going to need. Add your email domain, which we've covered already, which is you go to settings, you go to emails. We came over here, right? You're going to add your email domain first. You'll get your records. You'll have all the information. You can provide this information over to your email domain DNS admin. Once the verification happens, these, I'm assuming, turn green.
Yep.
And then once those are green, you can add your emails, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yep. So very simple to do that. Copying your DNS providers, right? So I kind of just showed them to you. So you literally come in here into your email domains, see your DNS records. You can hit copy paste here. Highly recommend hit copy here, because special characters, I think a lot of people sometimes like try to highlight, and it doesn't work out very well. Sometimes you end up with extra characters or the wrong thing. So my recommendation, my little pro tip, is click on these little buttons here so you can ensure that you are copying the right item. That's really easy to get. And so you just give them to your admin that needs it, and then you're good. Adding email addresses. So when we're able to verify your company's domain, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, you're going to start adding email addresses, and you can add up to 30.
Yes. Like I said, make sure I made it a point of studying and remembering when I took the exam what the limit was. So you may want to sock that away. Of course, I didn't see that when I took the exam, but you never know.
You never know. So it's 30 of emails you can do, and it looks like you can do 10 at a time, so you'll have to do this 3 times.
Yes.
And because emails, so I like these warnings, because sender email addresses will be visible to your users and customers. We recommend not entering an individual's user's Atlassian account. So don't put like Alex at my company.
Right.
Instead, use the email addresses to describe the support group, right? So support, help, whatever you want. All right. And then you choose your product. So does this influence Confluence in any way?
Right now, I believe it's only set for Jira and
Okay.
not for Confluence.
So
I
this
think
is my
Confluence.
favorite part of the Atlassian documentation. You showed how to do it, and now you reverse the order. You do the same steps.
There's actually a reverse for exactly for removing the email domain.
Yep. So once you have the same stuff, right? So we're coming into the same section, but once you have it, you just got to click the remove button.
Yep.
And so that's going to be really easy to just know. You go to settings, emails, domains, click remove, and you're done. That takes care of that. Same thing's going to happen now. I don't have any here because wasn't able to approve it, but over here you'll have under actions. I'm assuming you'll have a remove button over here. And
You
then
do have a remove button. You also have a available in product slider on-off switch. So after you add the email, you can after you add the email address, you can specify whether or not it is available for the product that you associate it with. So in this case, it would most likely be Jira, right? So after you add it, you and associate it with Jira, then you click on the slider to turn it on, and that makes it available for Jira project admins to use that email address or to specify it in notifications.
Cool.
Now, because it's an on-off switch, you can actually make it unavailable. You can turn it off.
Which is what's over here.
Yep.
So this means you don't have to remove it, but you can make it unavailable.
Correct.
Which means it's not visible.
Correct.
But no reconfiguration needed.
Only on the product side. Only on the Jira admin side, because if you enabled it and then disabled it and then re-enable it, you have to go back and reconfigure the notification.
So, but this doesn't seem right then, though, right? Because if I write like King Bob here, and my Jira admin didn't. Oh shoot! I should not do that because that usually breaks my stuff. If my Jira admin didn't add King Bob at super awesome URL on the email side, then doesn't this break here? Like what happens if I like literally make up like Rodney is awesome, and I have a super awesome URL over here, but it's not registered, right? I didn't add it over here to the email addresses. What happens then? Oops. Do you get what I'm saying?
You're talking on the org admin side.
No. On the project admin, right? So this is the project. I'm inside of a project, and I go to the email here, and I'm gonna click the edit button. This gives me the option to change. Remember, they said help, they said support, right?
Right.
But you were saying, hey, in order to use those, they need to be added over here. And over here, I'm assuming I gotta click add email address, and I would put help at super awesome URL, support at super awesome URL. Right. So, but this is not a drop down, right? Like I can't pick from the value. So what happens if I put like bogus email at super awesome URL and it's not in here? What would happen then?
That's a really good question. I don't know that.
Oh my gosh, I stomped the stomper.
That's something that we'll probably put the answer in
TBD, folks. Mr. Ronnie, go bail him out here. Wow, this is a new look on your face. I've never stopped a stomper. Oh man, I think that deserves that. This moment right here is better than me even passing the exam at this point.
So you're ready to pass the exam?
I'm ready to pass it, but
All right.
we'll see. Maybe they
All right.
ask me if they ask me what happens if you have a different email. All right, but anyways, so that's how you add your domain. That's how we make it unavailable. Removing the address from the domain we've already talked about as well, and we've already talked about removing it. So this is the last one here, which is configure Jira Cloud to send emails on your behalf, which we've already talked about as well, which is you basically go to the projects and you change that email there. So that's that. And so let's go on over to the, let's close this out and let's go over to module 4. So the module overview, let's go. Okay. In this lesson, you will learn why and how custom email addresses are created. Why set up a custom email domain? With a custom email domain, Jira project admins can customize the sender email address of any Jira project notification. This includes customer notifications for JSM. The address also serves as a reply mess address for... Dude, this is my favorite part. I've gotten invited to meetings, and then I get pinged. Right? I'll get pinged like 10 minutes into the meeting, and they're like, "Are you joining?" And I'm like, "Joining what?" And they're like, "The meeting we scheduled with you." And I'm like frantically checking through my calendar to see if like I have a meeting on my calendar. I'm like, "There's nothing on my calendar." And so I'll send them a screenshot of my calendar like empty, right? And then they'll send me a screenshot of like Alex Ortiz is invited to this meeting, but that's the name. The email is like clearly Jira at Atlassian.net. And I'm like, I'm not Jira. So this has been a big problem, I think, historically, where like when you do get a reply from somebody via the tickets, it kind of impersonates you a little bit. It almost looks like it's coming from you, but it's not, right? It's coming from Jira. And so yeah, this is a little funny story that this has been a problem. All right. So how do you set up your email domain? So honestly, Bob, then so this is a lot less scary than I thought at the beginning, right? Because really all you need to do is 2 steps, maybe 3, right? But step 1 is you verify your domain, which you're gonna do anyways if you're using Atlassian Access. And let's face it, if you're not using if you're doing this whole DMARC for security and phishing and you're not using Atlassian Access, like you're most likely, even though they're not coupled, right? You don't have to do them together, but you will most likely do both, right? Because you want the SSO capabilities plus you want this anti-phishing capabilities.
Right.
As if you're trying to be safe, right?
Right. That being said, this is applicable on any plan.
Yeah,
free,
correct.
standard, premium, enterprise, any plan.
Right. But I'm saying like most people, like foolish is a strong word, but it would be foolish to only set up DMARC and not sign up for Atlassian Access to get all the other extra security features.
Right.
Like it makes sense to do both. But anyways, when you verify your domain, 1, 2, you go and add it to your email address domain section. You grab those DNS records, you give them to your DNS person. They get verified. Once they're verified, you go and add your emails. Once those emails are added, your project members can add them to the projects, or your project admins can add to the projects, and that's it. That's all you got to know. And I guess for the exam though, here's what DMARC stands for. This is probably I feel like this would be, if it's on here, folks. It's open. It's a fair game. It can be on the exam. And so DMARC stands for Domain-Based Message Authentication, Reporting, and Conformance. The DMARC is a technical standard that helps protect email senders and recipients from spam, spoofing, and phishing. And this feature only applies to Atlassian cloud organizations that have one of the Jira products and the configuration can be done for each project. So again, you add your domain, copy your DNS records, confirm that they match, activate the domain, and add your emails. And that's it. Like that's really, really easy. There's really nothing to it. I thought this was going to be a lot harder. Maybe because the word DMARC is a scary word.
Yeah.
Once configured, Jira admins, project admins can select one of those custom emails. See, this is the part that doesn't make sense though, right? Because they can select it, but not really. Like they're taking a shot in the dark, in my opinion. right? Like I know I can put support if I verified it, but I can also put like supporter and mess that up and it won't work.
I'm
Right.
wondering, and
Bob's gonna go try it out. We'll circle back to that. Note that since custom email address can only be used in the notification schemes, global notifications such as @mentions will still be sent from the original email. All right, removing it super easy, right? When you remove the email domain, you remove all the addresses of the domain, and when you can remove line items, right? So instead of removing all of them, you can just do one specific one, and you just get rid of that. So let's go over to this. Remember that some words and concepts sound similar but refer to very different bits of functionality. This includes approved domains, verified domains, and email domains. Be sure you understand a few items from this lesson in particular. Be sure you understand which domain corresponds to which feature or functionality within an organization or product. Also, be sure that you understand the custom email domain process and the impacts of adding or removing email domains. Cool. All right, example question. I hate this part. Here we go. You are asked to configure custom email addresses for product notifications, but some part of the configuration is not working properly. You are asked to configure a custom email domain for product notifications, but some of them are not. Okay. Identify it. You did not add the approved domain in the user access settings. No, because this has nothing to do with user access right now. You did not copy the DNS records correctly. Maybe. That's a possibility. You did not activate the domain in Confluence. Now, this is interesting because all the documentation we've been looking at is for Jira. But there wasn't any mention of Confluence. Now, I'm going to put this one as a maybe, but a very, very low maybe. Okay. Because I don't think this happens at the product level, right? The activating of the domain happens in the admin.atlassian.com. So I think this would be irrelevant if it's the product or not. But I am curious why Confluence was not mentioned in any documentation. You did not verify your email address. This is possible as well. And you did not claim email accounts from a verified domain. This one's a tricky one. But if I had to go, I'm between B and D more than I am E. And if I have to go between one of these, I want to go with this one. But you did not verify. Verify is the keyword here, right? Verify. I don't know that I would verify the email address because I don't remember there being any verification over here when you add this email. But I also feel like if you did not copy the DNS records correctly, that's like step one, right?
Yeah.
Like, by the time you get to configuring the custom ones, like you would have known if we messed this part up or not. So I'm gonna go with D, even though I'm not 100% sure at all. And it's incorrect, but it was B. Wow, look at that. One-step process to copy and add the list. So let's find out what D is incorrect. I guess this feature requires an email domain to be verified, not an email address. Okay. So this is where that word choice is important, right? Verify. You did not verify your email domain is different than address, folks.
Right.
Okay.
So when we were saying that we don't verify email addresses aren't verified, we're correct. It really, really checks on the domain. That's a valid domain.
Yep. Okay. Next question. Hugo remove the email address support@woozles.com under settings emails in the admin hub. Okay. Identify a possible impact. That email address shows up as unverified in the directory. The email domain is automatically removed. No, this is definitely a not. The relevant DNS records are removed. I would say no. Maybe, but this is run every time. I think it's going to be E. Hey.
Very good. See, I need to set up my Mac so that I.
You haven't done it? You're not on the latest?
Huh?
Okay. You're not on the latest version of Mac OS?
I'm running an Intel MacBook Pro, so
Okay. You know what? As an added bonus, let's just, because there's only 3 links here, and I think this is probably my easiest section.
yeah,
I'd say we still got another 10 minutes or 5 minutes. Let's see if we can power through them real quick.
we can.
Yeah, let's go over to section 4.2, configure premium features. And if you're watching the live stream, you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a good time to hit that subscribe button. So let's go talk about release tracks. So I like release tracks until I don't, but I like getting the emails. I like getting the emails because these release tracks give me they give me good content for my YouTube channel, right? And just to give context, right? Atlassian changes Jira every single day, daily, right? There's
Yeah.
cool things being added almost every single day. And sometimes it's overwhelming, right? Sometimes it's like it's hard to keep up. It's like keeping up with the Kardashians here in Europe.
And especially if you are on if you're an enterprise, and maybe some parts of your organization see these new features that are coming in, and maybe other parts of your organization don't. So it's because when Atlassian rolls out these changes, they kind of roll them out maybe in one region of the world, and then another region of the world will get it later. So it for a large multinational corporation, it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, it is. And then you get a lot of complaints.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we have here though? So what's Atlassian's answer to this right? So well, fortunately, if you're on premium or enterprise, you get this functionality, which is it determines when you and your users get the changes. And you get a nice little email, which I like, right? Like it'll tell you like, here's what's new. Which you don't typically get because usually you find out about something being new when the UI is different on you. And so this is kind of cool. I like this, right? So you have 2 options, a continuous or bundled. And so the continuous one will give you products receive changes and features as soon as they're available, which is usually what everybody's on, right?
Yep.
But you can also change it so that products receive the changes in a group on the second Tuesday of each month. Patch Tuesday from Microsoft, right?
Yeah. So
and so
once
this
a month.
is once a month, and or twice a month. And so this is really cool, right? So at a specific time, all those features will be rolled out to your instances, and you'll get this really cool email that gives you a summary. And so I think that's really nice because then you can like forward that email to your users, or you can just make like a newsletter, some notification announcement, and tell people, "Ta-da! This is what's new." So these aren't included in the bundle track. So new user experience in Jira or the Fabric editor and Confluence are apparently not.
Those are
But
big changes. So, so those are examples of big changes that don't get put into release tracks.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of a gradual evolution. But moving ahead.
Yeah. So I won't be able to demonstrate this, but this picture I think sums it up really nicely, right? So you're going to come back to admin.atlassian.com. You're going to go to products up here on the top, release tracks on the left, and then you're going to find your product, and then you can change the track that it's on. So you can leave it as continuous, or you can do it as bundled, and there's even a preview.
Yes. There's actually a third one for called preview. Preview is only applicable to sandboxes.
Ah.
So if you think of your production instance being on a bundle track, the preview track is going to show those changes a month before. So your sandbox is going to have early changes, right? It's going to have the changes early so you can kind of see it and know what to do with it on a preview track. Preview is only available on sandboxes. That being said, you want to make sure that your sandboxes have the changes before production. So good practice is your production is going to be bundled, and your sandbox can either be set to continuous, so it'll get the changes when they're made available, or preview.
Nice. All right, view changes to your product. So to view all the changes from the release tracks or from your email, so you can click on the release tracks again over here and see your products, click on release tracks, and then select the under next release or last release. Where the heck? Oh, right here. So you can click on this date and it'll show you what changed. All right, and then we just talked about these, right? So production gets bundled. This table's ugly.
I like the way I explained it better.
Yeah. Listen to Bob's words. Okay. So that's the release track. So again, very, very nifty feature if you don't want your Jira world changing up on you every day. Now let's talk about sandboxes. So I love sandboxes. Sandboxes are the ultimate CYA in Jira land.
Yep.
Because unlike on-prem, where you can spool up different Jiras or whatever you want to do with your server land, the cloud gives you a sandbox, which is a limitation because you get a sandbox, and it's the sandbox that you get.
And Atlassian is actually changing that. There, sometime later on this year, there should be the ability to have multiple sandboxes.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be on an EAP on that, but I never heard back, and I got to follow up.
Yeah, and Mr. Rodney is being a little snarky here. A week after sandboxes accidentally, or quote unquote, accidentally got deleted.
Right, dude. I am so glad that they were able to revert that, because that would have been catastrophic.
Yeah.
All right. So the sandbox, and I won't go through so many details here, because really all you need to know about the sandbox is right here, right? So you're going to go to products, sandbox, and you make a sandbox. And it can take up to 30 minutes to make a sandbox. And it's really easy. And the sandbox basically is added as a new product to your Atlassian instance. And so it's like having another Jira. But there's a couple of benefits to the sandbox that I want to highlight. I don't think they're going to be on the test, but just in case you were looking for the case for why you want a sandbox, one, you can test your stuff out in the sandbox, right? You don't break. You can do your workflow changes. You can go full like Magic School Bus, right? Get messy, make mistakes, right? Whatever Miss Frizzle's tagline is, right? And the sandbox, and you're not going to impact production. That's really good. Number two, you can test out plugins, and you can test out EAPs, and you can test out, like we saw, these features, right, where you can look at them and test out and make sure that they work. Make sure they're not going to impact your production environments before you introduce those changes to production.
Right. You can one nice benefit about a sandbox as well is, and especially for service partner of which I am employed, they're very useful for server to cloud migrations, then or data center to cloud migrations, because then you have a wholly separate environment where you can actually test out your migration strategy.
Right. And I can't wait. So because of server migrations, right? That's why that's one of the reasons why Atlassian is going to enable you to have multiple sandboxes. Now, there are some limits, right? One, they're different URLs, and there is no connection between them. So you make the changes in your sandbox. Well, guess what? You get to redo those changes in production. Now, not sponsored, but there are plugins that allow you to facilitate this process. I'll throw out a couple of ones that sponsor. Well, this video is not sponsored by them, but normally check out Revise, check out Salto, a couple of different options out there that allow you to cherry pick your changes from one environment to the other. Very, very beneficial. Number two, you can only have one, right? So if you want to do something different, or a different team or a different organization, where you're kind of in trouble. This is particularly more true when you have a large organization and there's a lot of alphas, right, that don't know how to play with each other nicely. This could be a problem because you only have one sandbox. And three, once you make your copy, so you're going to see down here that you can copy your production data to the sandbox, right? Well, that's great, right? But you can see here there's some limitations. But I think the biggest limitation is that when you make your copy, if those two become sync at that moment in time, but over time they become unsynchronized,
Right.
Well, you can't like cherry pick production back over to your sandbox, because when you recopy your production to your sandbox, you just overrode your sandbox. So anything that was in your sandbox that wasn't, ready for prime time, it just got nuked. And so again, this is where you want to look at a solution like Revise or Salto's Configuration Manager, so you can cherry pick items from either environment and either way you want to go, because it's going to save you. It's worth their weight in gold. I can tell you
Right.
that much.
Also, one other thing that Alex is going to show on that table that does not get copied over in the original copy or any subsequent copies, there's some Jira product data, things like automation rules.
That's a big one.
Don't get copied over. So for that, you're going to have to do an export of the automation rules and then import them into the sandbox,
or have multiple monitors so you can recreate.
I'm a big fan of export import. It's
Yeah,
really easy and convenient. So
are you Vandalay Industries?
Yeah. The other thing
he was an exporter, right? Josh Costanza from Sandbox.
So, yeah.
When Kramer answers the phone, he's running out of the bathroom with his pants down to his knees. He's like, Vandalay Industries, Vandalay Industries. I'm an importer, exporter.
Other important things are it says insight for Jira Service Management. We now know that as assets. So asset data is not.
Atlassian, shame on you, not updating your documentation.
So asset data is also another example. I don't want to read the table to you. The last thing I do want to say is also apps. Any marketplace apps that you have on production, they do not get copied over to Sandbox.
You know what I just found out? That was quite a pickle. JSM projects get copied over.
They
do. I did it, right? JSM projects get copied over.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not on JSM Premium, you don't have JSM in the cloud. I mean, in your sandbox as a configuration or a license.
Right. So you won't have those projects.
You can go in them. You can go in them. You just can't add like request types and stuff like that. But they're in there, and you're led to believe that you can do changes until you can't.
Okay. So, because if you don't have JSM Premium, those sandboxes don't get treated as JSM projects. So you lose
configurable projects.
Right. So you lose the JSM features. You won't be able to see your queues. You won't be able to see SLAs.
No, I mean, no, you can see them. You just can't modify them. Yeah, which is like I said, like you're led to believe that you can do things until you're like, wait, something's not right. And then you go and obviously you don't have your JSM license. So I thought that was really interesting. That Atlassian, like I would have thought that the JSM projects wouldn't have been copied over, but I guess there's too much common code or something that they just everything gets brought over. All right. So yeah, just read through this because it's very straightforward. We'll find out in a second when I jump into the documentation of the exam. But yeah, just know this section right here though is important, right? Because this is where a lot of people get very, very confused. Making configuration changes between your sandbox and production, they're very easy. You have different URLs. But a lot of times people want to also mess around or experiment with like groups or users, right? And that's still shared. I still have to remind people, especially when they're new to the cloud, that your users are managed not in the product, right? They're up above. And so when they want to experiment with like reorganizing the groups for like the permission schemes inside of the sandbox, well, I'm like, well, these are global changes. You're going to change a group globally. That group's going to be visible for both sandbox and production.
Yep.
Same thing with like Okta, right? I get this a lot, like where like when you're implementing or you're adding something at scale, like an Okta implementation or a rollout. Well, your Okta usually has like a pre-prod or pre-production or development instance, right? And your teams, at least from what I've seen, they usually want to connect to a sandbox environment of Jira, which is great. So I'm like, yeah, I have a sandbox, but it doesn't do you anything because your Okta admins happen at the admin.atlassian.com, which doesn't have a like a sandbox type. So I think it would be interesting for Atlassian to see if there was ever something on their roadmap to facilitate having more sandbox like features for the admin.atlassian.com,
Right.
because it's production 100% all the time. There is no testing the waters type of thing. With everything we've covered for this course, it's you're on or you're off. There's no in between.
And also remember, and we'll probably touch upon that in the next time. Sandbox access does not count if you have Atlassian access enabled. Access to a sandbox does not
count for your
apply to your Atlassian access.
Yeah, this is also very important, folks. If you don't pay your bills, if you don't pay your Atlassian bills, right? Like for whatever reason, your credit card lapsed or whatever, your sandbox will go away because your Jira will go away too. But Atlassian brings back your regular Jira, but your sandboxes you'll have to start all over from scratch.
Right. And this is also true if you move from premium to a lesser plan like standard or free.
So
the sandbox automatically gets blown away.
That's good to know. So yeah, so be very careful, folks. All right. And then I think this is worth mentioning, right? So if you buy a plugin in your sandbox, you will be on the hook for paying them after those 30 days in the sandbox. Right. If you buy the plugin in production, then you get it for free in the sandbox.
Correct.
So just know that there is a difference there. All right. And then deleting your sandboxes, you just hit the actions and hit the delete button. Although this is new, this restore button. I have never seen this one. But apparently after 30 days, the sandbox is permanently deleted.
And actually, I did make use of the restore button because I had some demos in the sandbox for a client, and the meeting for the demo was actually like on the same day that Atlassian deleted, and the workaround was to actually use that restore function.
I just realized I'm very screwed.
For what, the exam?
No, my phone's dead, and my Okta, I don't remember what accounts I have in my Okta that I have to now bring to my other phone.
Uh-oh.
Because I can't get into it.
You bricked your phone?
No, the phone bricked itself.
Uh-oh.
I didn't wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to break my phone today. All right. Let's see. I don't think there's anything special here. So let's just jump into the last section, which is specify IP addresses for product access. Yes. This is something I've never done.
This is golden. This is so Alex accuses me of trying to upsell to premium. And I admit that I do that, but that's because some of the features in premium are really nice features to have. This is one of those.
You think so?
This feature is basically called IP allow listing. You can tell Atlassian Cloud what IP addresses or IP address ranges can have access to the sites in that organization. So it's kind of a built-in security check.
But how does this work in the cloud?
There is
like the practicality of it.
Well, most people still have so if you're talking about a brick and mortar organization that has a headquarters, they're still going to have IP an IP address or a number of IP addresses that they use to allow that to connect out to the entire internet. You can specify those addresses and those addresses alone.
Okay, but that's brick and mortar. But let's just say you and I were in the same company. We're not brick and mortar. How do we? You got to go through a lot of IP addresses.
You could either
no?
you could allow, you could well, I mean, you're going to have an IP address. I'm going to have an IP address. But another way of doing that is if we have to connect to our company's headquarters through VPN,
Right.
then
No, I get
we're
that.
gonna fall under their IP address range.
Okay, right. So that's what I'm saying, right? You got to tunnel in, but then I feel like when you tunnel in like that, then you're handicapping your cloud products
You are, but it's a trade-off.
for
Security
security. Yeah.
versus performance. There's always going to be a trade-off.
All right. Well, conversations of philosophies aside, IP, just in a nutshell, right? You get to pick which IP addresses can actually hit your cloud, which is a good thing if security is very, very important, right? I never done it though. Most people just accept the internet because you still need a license and you still need to have an account to be getting all the way. So this is just like a really nice to have extra added feature. So just go over here to the security section, and so we'll go to security. You have an IP. Well, I don't think I might probably won't do it because I'm not on premium, but you have it in here, and then you just create your allow list. You pick your IP addresses, and
so it accepts either individual IP addresses, or if you need to specify a range of addresses, you use what's known as CIDR notation, where you specify the subnet and then how many addresses out of that subnet.
Bobby, you're just too smart, man. All right. And so that's it for that one. So let's just wrap this one up then by going into this last section here, and let's take the test. All right. So sandboxes. So a sandbox is an instance of the cloud product that includes your domain, your data, configurations, and allows for testing and experimentation without affecting production. Pro tip, folks. Pro tip. Change your banners. Change this color, because the only thing that differentiates between your sandbox and your production is the fact that it says sandbox up here. You won't ever look up there. So very important. Make it easy for yourself. Sandbox can also be used to preview product updates that Atlassian is introducing. So we talked about that earlier. So which products and plans have a sandbox? So only premium, and then only software, service management, and Confluence with either premium or enterprise. How many sandboxes can you create? So it's one per product, right?
Mm-hmm. For now.
What type of plan will the sandbox be on? It's the same enterprise or production that you're on your production. Premium or enterprise that you're on your production instance. What happens if your production environment gets downgraded? As Bob said, it gets nuked automatically. And if you bring it back up, you're starting over. You're not remembering any of your changes. So how do you create it, right? So you just go to product sandboxes, you hit the add box. Whoever creates a sandbox becomes the org admin automatically, and then you have to go in and then kind of add other people to it. Very similar to when you like set up Jira for the very first time. But then you still got to invite people or allow people to be a user in that sandbox. So default access group. So the default access groups created for a sandbox differs from the production, right? They're going to have the sandbox keyword appended to it. So it's going to be Jira-sandbox-users, Confluence-sandbox-users. I'm paraphrasing, but essentially that's what you get. Your portal customers, external portal customers appear the same as the sandbox copy, but those customers cannot actually log into the sandbox site. So this is interesting. So there is no customer role in the sandbox. So you can't test out things like your portal and see if they can access the portal or not, which I think is a miss from Atlassian. I think that should be fixed. But who am I? Who am I to tell a multi-billion-dollar company how to run their business?
I'm kind of okay with that because, there are ways that I've done things in Sandbox as an admin. You don't want your actual customers to be testing out changes until you're really, really sure.
Yeah, but you also want to have a group of beta testers that are
but those beta testers are going to be agents or admins.
No, not necessarily, because there's the view and the experience for the customer is different than the agents and admins.
No, but I'm saying there's still going to be a customer portal available, and your agents are going to be able to use that Sandbox customer portal.
No, I mean, I get that, but I guess I'm not making a very good case. But I would want to see it in its purest form, right? Because the agent can be contaminated because you have all the features, so it's easy to make assumptions because you have everything, as like you have the queue and everything, right? But the customer will truly see it as the limitations of the portal. But anyways, that's just me. User access settings. So the user access can be configured to be the same or different than the production. So for example, you can have different approved domains in the production site, or the production site can use invitation links and the Sandbox doesn't. So these are all byproducts. So that's cool. Refreshing your Sandbox data. So for each Sandbox, you can choose to refresh by clicking the copy. Then later you can check and see when it was copied. Again, when you recopy, you basically wipe out your Sandbox changes, and then you can delete it when it's no longer needed. The release track feature can be used to control what changes are deployed. Atlassian rolls out changes to the cloud product weekly, and so by default, you're just going to get them whenever they become available. But you can pause it, and so you can be on a continuous track, a bundled track, which means you get them in as a group of changes, or the preview track, which means it's for Sandbox only, and you get the bundle changes that are added early to the Sandboxes before they go to your production. And then we talked about IP allow listing, which gives you additional level of security in the cloud, which allows only specific IP addresses of those users to access your products. And then creating it's easy. Just go to security policies, you add the IP addresses, and your products that are protected. So it's going to be all premium and enterprise instances of production or Sandbox environments for Confluence and Jira. Okay. Oh, there wasn't a link for organization insights, but it's in there, and it's new, and I like it. There's a new organizational insights that allow you to like check out really cool things about like your users and whatnot. I don't know that I have it on here, but there's a section here for insights that allows you to see a bunch of different cool things. And so I will come in and check this out, especially if you're like a metrics nerd. I'm not, but this last active users has been very helpful to keep our costs down, right? Because I can see how many actual active users are using it versus how many licenses I'm paying for. So this right here is very, very helpful. Okay. Practice time, and then we're going to wrap this up. All right. So which features are covered in this module are only available for premium and enterprise plans? So the Sandbox, the release tracks, and this one. I don't know about this last one. Apparently all four.
Yes.
What? This just says it right here. Oh, Atlassian Access. So you can have Atlassian Access be on free or standard and still get the insights. Look at that, folks. But also anybody with an Atlassian Access subscription. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, this is why I like to fail in the test, because then I'm going to remember it next week. All right. Bundled track. I know this one. So let's do this easy. Oops. How do I do this connection again? There we go.
There you go.
Preview is Sandboxes. So by virtue of elimination, we have that. Ta-da. Okay. You can view when production data was last copied to your Sandbox. True. An IP allow list is always enabled immediately after creating it. That doesn't make sense. False? Don't you have to put the IP addresses in? But
well, I mean, if you create the allow list, it would.
So I guess it's false though. IP allow listing projects Confluence protects. True, no?
Yeah.
IP allow list protects Jira. Yes. Both Sandboxes and IP allow lists are set up by default. No. This default access group for a Sandbox differs from the production. Yes. A Sandbox production environment will have same plan and user limits. Yes. External portal customers can log into the sandbox. No. 7 out of 8. That's still passing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we
remember
are
62% for the real exam.
There's more questions. What the heck? Okay. Your organization has products and various subscription plans. For which one can you set release tracks that are bundled? Okay, so we can go. Is this a multiple choice? Your
Nope, doesn't look
organization
like
has
it.
products.
Looks like it.
For which one can you set the release track so that bundle changes are added? So not this one, not this one, and not this one, because there was no mention of Trello. There was no mention of JSM either. So that leaves us with this and this. But we want bundle changes are released early. This is where you got to read the question. We go to Sandbox. It's the only one that has a Sandbox, which is the only one that's early.
Ta-da! Oh, by the way, any product that's on enterprise is effectively premium, or has premium features. So, but again, as Alex mentioned, it was early, which meant preview track, which meant Sandbox.
Yeah.
So that's why Alex got it right.
I'm learning how to read. All right. Your organization has only 3 products: Trello, Enterprise, Confluence, Premium, and Atlassian Access. A manager asked if the following features can be configured: a sandbox, custom email addresses, IP, allow lists, organizational insights, and release tracks. How many can be done? So we can do a sandbox for Confluence, 1. We can do custom email addresses, 2. We can do a IP allow listing for Confluence, 3. Organizational insights, 4, because we're on Atlassian Access, 4. And release tracks for Confluence. So all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why?
Which one didn't get accepted? I can't read
The
that.
last one is available with the subscription. You cannot configure custom email address because that's a feature only for Jira products.
Ah.
Huh. So Confluence. So that answers the question that I had earlier about when we're looking at those custom email addresses. What happened to Confluence? So again, Confluence doesn't get any love when it comes to custom email addresses.
Confluence is not getting any love.
Which is dumb because there's
it's
notifications that come out of Confluence a lot. Why would they do that for Jira but not Confluence? Oh, silly Atlassian. These are those things where one day I wish I could sit in a boardroom from Atlassian and go, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, people.
All
All right. So we are good to go. Thank you very much, Bob. Thank you all. We are halfway done with set module 4. Hopefully we can finish it up by sometime this week or next weekend. And I'm off to take the test on was it the 10th?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the 10th.
I'm taking it on the 10th. So got a few more days to study.
I think it's one last session. It's just going to be the last two, and then probably some tips and tricks and generally good advice on.
Yeah, and then we're going to have to do a postmortem on my
AKA Alex. Here's how not to panic.
Whatever. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Check out the playlist. This is part 8, so there's 7 other videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and thank you very much, Mr. Bob, for jumping on here. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
Yep. Bye, everybody.